Hi guys, it's Jen with All That Glitters and Rust, and today I'm going to be doing a couple of different projects. I have this board here that I got from a marketplace, Facebook marketplace ad that I replied to, and I got, I think it was 60 different frames and some of these little wall plaques for $80. It was an amazing deal, just a bunch of random different stuff. So I'm going to use this wall plaque today. I'm going to be painting over that lovely jellyfish painting that someone else had done. And I am just going to give it a couple of coats with my white chalk paint, using my mister to just sort of thin it out when my brush starts to drag a little bit. So just making sure I try to get it nice and even. I am going to be doing a stencil on this brush or on this wallboard today. So I got to cover up that lovely jellyfish. It wasn't raised, so that was nice. I didn't have to do any sanding or anything. It does have a little bit of water damage on the back. I don't know if you saw that when I quickly flipped that over. So we got that first coat of paint on there. And while that dries, I am going to be doing a little decoupage on this other little wall plaque I also got from the same marketplace gal. And it's just a cute little square. I think it did have something in the center that I already painted over, just a couple coats of white chalk paint again as well. So this is just a little printable that I printed out on my own printer on some rice paper. And I am going to decoupage that down, starting with my little starter strip there at the top with my liquid patina by DIY. Love it for decoupage. So we're going to get a little bit on there. Not too much, not too little. And we're going to go ahead and mist the paper a little bit. And go ahead and smooth that down just with my fingers. Try not to have any air bubbles in there. And then go over the top just to kind of secure that piece in place. Then when I get that all covered, I'll be lifting up the bottom and do the same thing. Trying not to get too close to that edge there, but it looks like I did actually. Sometimes you can get too much product there at the where it's lifted, and then you might see that on the front side. Missed my paper again a little bit. Try not to have a puddle there where the paper meets the board, and then smooth that down as well. Yeah, I got this in with, like I said, with that other stuff. It was like 60 frames for $80, but there were several other of these just kind of random boards added in. So I thought I could just do a little 4th of July. So this is actually project number 2. Now, I was going to try this new, I have the felt covered squeegee for decoupage, which I love to use, but I didn't want to get my felt too dirty. So I was going to try it in a baggie that you see there, but then I realized it didn't fit inside this little box there. See, I have it in a baggie, and I was going to try that out because then I could just throw the baggie away and my felt would still be clean. But it wouldn't fit inside this little square picture, so maybe another time. So now I'm going to just dry that with my heat tool a little bit. Help that stick down really well. And then I'm going to touch up the frame on this. I liked the rich color, but it had quite a few dings on it. So I get out my antiquing wash that I make, and this is the antiquing wax from Waverly, mixed with a little of the Waverly ink chalk paint. I learned that from Ginger Chick Rehab, or yeah, Ginger Chick Rehab. She's awesome. So I have that mixed up. So I'm going to try that out on this frame just to try and cover some of those dings and scuffs that it has on there. Looks like some white paint transfer and scratches and things. So just to try to freshen that frame up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off and just see if that depth of color has covered that stuff up. Try the other side here. But then I pretty quickly realized that I don't think this is quite dark enough. It hasn't really changed the white scuffs and marks too much. So I'm going to put that medium. That's a medium colored one. I have a darker one that has a little more of the wax and the ink paint in it. So I'm getting out my dark antiquing wash and I'm going to try that. See if that does a little better. Now you have to stir this stuff every time you use it because the pigments and stuff will fall to the bottom. I don't shake it because my lid on there is not super secure and it tends to leak if I shake it. So I just stir it up every time. Now that is looking better. That's a nice dark. There we go. See the difference there? That's giving it some good depth of color and really richening up that frame for me. So I'm going to do that all the way around the four sides and then wiping it off. And then see the front has quite a few. But I'm afraid if I use my brush, it's going to leak down inside of the frame and get my decoupage paper or my white chalk paint. So I decided just to use a paper towel and my finger and just get in there as close as I can without getting my white chalk paint stained. So just going in with a paper towel, getting as close as I can with that dark antiquing wash. Oh, and then I got brave and I decided to get right up on in there with the brush. One more side to do there. And then I kind of wipe that back off and then that one is done. Now we're back to our first board. I've got, you can see that water damage there on the left side a little bit. And I've got 2 coats of paint on the front, but now I need to do a second coat of paint on the back because you can see that that paint's a little thin there on the right side and that water damage is still showing through on the left. So I'm going to go back in with a second coat of my white chalk paint on the back. I like to paint my backs. I like my things to look finished front and back. So we'll do another quick coat on the back to get that covered up. Again, oh, there's my dog. Again, using my mister just to spread that chalk paint out a little better. Getting that all spread out. And then we let that dry. Then when that was dry, I got out my stencils. I have a cute little 4th of July stencil here. And then stripes for the bottom. Oh my goodness, my puppy is on alert. So I'm going to tape this stencil down so that I can have both hands to hold my stencil down in the middle there so it's nice and secure. And this stencil set I got from Amazon. go ahead and use my painter's tape and get that nicely secured down. And then I have out there, it's a Waverly, older Waverly paint. I didn't have any navy blue, so this is like night sky or something like that. And it's really, really dark blue, almost black. So I'm testing it out there on the paper towel, and it's obviously way too dark. So I'm going to put it over on my little paint palette there and add a little of my white chalk paint to it. Lighten that up just a little bit. We want a navy blue. So I'm just mixing, trying to get just the right shade. And then once I like that, I am going to dip into that color and wipe most of that off onto my napkin there, my paper towel. And then I'm going to hold my stencil down and just go in with my swirling. I like the swirl method pretty good. The pouncing seems to hurt my wrist, so I do the swirl quite a bit. So we're just going to go through that quickly here, speed it up because that's kind of a long process. Getting all those letters done in that beautiful blue that I made myself. And I think I do have to do 2 coats. I think I go back over it. I'd rather do 2 coats, 2 thin coats, than have too much paint on my brush and have it, leak underneath my stencil and get my stencil all smeared. So going back in with the second coat there. Nope, sorry for my head there. I'm getting any thin parts and swirl marks you could still see there, covered up with that second coat. And then we'll move on to the little stars. It has 2 stars, one on either side of the 4th of July wording. And we'll do those with some red. Again, dry stencil brush. You don't want to have too much paint on your stencil brush or it will leak underneath your stencil and then you'll have a mess. So 2 coats of the red as well. And then we will take that stencil off. Review our beautiful stencil. And there it is. Yay! Thumbs up. No leaking under the stencil. Awesome. Now I am going to get out a small artist brush and go back in with that blue, and I'm going to cross those bridges. All those little white lines you can see in there, that's where the stencil's held together. So I'm going in and filling in those little lines just to make it look a little more professional, a little more hand painted. You don't want to see those little white lines in there. So just a little tiny artist brush and just close up all those little lines that hold that stencil in place. Okay, so we got the striped stencil out now. And I'm just doing the same thing, the red with a very dry brush, going over the whole thing, trying to make sure we don't move those lines, so we can get a nice straight line for our flag. And I started on the second stripe there because the ones on the edge, they actually wrap down around the edge of the board just a little bit. And I really wanted to keep the paint only on the very flat top of the board. So as you can see, I'm not going all the way to the edge. I'm just doing that inside line, staying away from the edge of the board here on both sides. And then I'm going to get this piece of masking tape out, and I'm going to go up underneath the edge of that stencil a little bit so I can get a nice straight line with that red paint so that it doesn't wrap down around the edge of the board. And we'll put that masking tape on both sides. And then I'm going to go back in with my red paint and get right up to that nice clean line that masking tape is going to give me now. And we'll do both sides that way and get the rest of that outer line finished up. And then I go back in for my second coat, really dry brush, so we don't get any leaking under the stencil. And we'll do that for the whole thing. Getting that red, nice deep dark red color, covering up all those swirls from my little swirl method that I like to use. And actually, these stencils were really nice from Amazon. They actually were thick enough. They stayed down pretty well. I really didn't have to hold them down too much with my other hand, which was nice. Some of them are so thin you really have to hold them in place, but these were great. I was very happy with this little set. It came with quite a few. I want to say maybe 10 different 4th of July stencils. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. So finishing up that last line there. And I think I have a few little touch-ups here and there. Yeah. Sorry about that glare of my overhead light there, guys. That's kind of harsh. I just noticed that. But just touching up a few little spots. Making sure that red is really opaque. And then we will get ready to take off our tape. Oh, beautiful. I do have just a couple little spots you can see there where it bled, but overall really good. Very happy with it. And then I am going to do, I did an Oliver coat. No, I think I just went right in with my mixture of my clear wax and my dark wax. This just lightens that dark wax up. A lot of times the dark is just a little too dark for me, and when I want just a very slight aging, I will mix the clear wax and the DIY dark wax together, and it just gives a little smidge of aging, and it's really easy to wipe back with all that clear. It's a lot of clear wax and just a little dark wax. So we go over the whole board with that. I like aged and antiqued and rusty crusty, so age our flag stencil sign up here a little bit. And then I had just thrown together a little raggy bow and put a little wooden star that I painted with that same red right there in the middle. And we're going to hot glue that little baby right up in the corner just for a little flare. Little pretties. Just twisting those the right way. Hold that there for a few seconds. And look at that. So simple, so cute. Just a nice little porch leaner, shelf leaner. It's just adorable. And this literally cost me I don't know, maybe $1 for this board at that marketplace ad that I responded to and got a great deal. And here's a little vignette of different little 4th of July things I've done. There's that decoupage one I had put together. Then the stars, those are just Dollar Tree stars there that I used the dark wax on and just aged them up, rusty, crusty, grunged them up a little bit. And that I Heart USA, I Love USA one was just a little board I had that was another one of the stencils, that one right there, another one of the stencils that came in that pack. So cute. Added a little burlap and some stars. There's that same heart on another one of the little frames that came in that marketplace. And there it is, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and come back to All That Glitters and Rust.